Alright, in my opinion, I believe that this was the worst Battlegrounds meta to ever exist, and it's not really close. This was just not fun in the slightest, to be honest, because basically, if you don't have the right champions, it's so boring, man. It's just so boring because the damage res is annoying, and just like everything about it, I just cannot stand. I might be like in the minority here, but I just did not like this meta in the slightest. But there were some ways to work around it, of course, like having armor up champions, having armor break champions, having just nullifiers as well. And like once you had the right champions, it was kind of decent, but that wasn't always a guarantee for every matchup. So for the most part, it was just a very boring time, like a very boring experience, and Battlegrounds is usually the opposite of that, which is surprising how they fumbled so badly in my opinion. But let's see like some example matchups here. And surprisingly enough, one of the best attackers for this meta is in fact Civil Warrior. So that is crazy, of course, but you know, that was like what, $300 well spent? I mean, not well spent, but I spent them and I got some use out of him, so I'll take it. Next meta, he's going to be terrible, so that's that. But hey, he got one meta use. That's not too bad. But let's explain what this meta is. Like, what are the nodes for this meta? Well, every 5 seconds, the opponent gains a prowess buff. And additionally, per prowess buff on the opponent, or not prowess buff, but just any prowess in general, they get minus 5% damage taken. Like, they just take 5% less damage. That is a bit crazy because at 20 prowess, they just take 0 damage. And if you don't have a nullified character, or like an armor up character, because there's also an attack tactic where if you have an armor up, whenever you gain an armor up, you remove a prowess, which is pretty good. And whenever you inflict an armor break as a tech character, you also remove a prowess. So not too shabby for sure, but if you don't have a good tech champion or like a nullifier or something, then you just cannot get the prowess to go away, and then they just like take 0 damage eventually, which is super fun. And I don't like this because it makes Battlegrounds so slow, and like Battlegrounds should be a fun, fast-paced game, but in this meta, it was just the opposite of that. It was just so boring sometimes. Like even Hulk right here, with the SP3 physical vulnerability, is still taking forever with this Dr. Doom. This is so unlike Hulk, but it's just how it is this meta, man. So it's really annoying, but it's whatever, I guess, because he still gets the fight done. It's not like it's a timeout guaranteed. It's just a bit slower than usual. But here also, the prowess is pretty nuts, so that can be a pretty big factor in the matchup as well. But hey, we still got it down. Hulk, still pretty good, but sometimes he just doesn't work versus like Sasquatch or something. Most of the best defenders were Mystics, especially like Sasquatch, Rintra, just champs like that. Thing as well, because he's Nullify immune. Any Nullify immune character, any just like champion that has prowess at base, for example, Katie Pride, Sauron, Bishop, and then the champions that can counter armor up buffs like the Mystic characters, those were the most common defenders, and it was pretty annoying to deal with, right? But check this out, man. Civil Warrior is getting some use. He is getting me my money's worth. Actually, no. Sorry, this was the wrong match. It's in the next match. Sorry for like baiting y'all there. But here we use War Machine, who is honestly pretty underrated. And he was honestly pretty great this meta as well. I guess one positive of this meta was that some underrated champions really shined. For example, Civil Warrior, War Machine. Who else is good here? I guess Yondu is decent as well. Like, some really oddball characters did pretty well overall. But of course, there was still the top tier options like Nimrod, Future Ant-Man, Omega Sentinel. But if you were desperate and like you didn't have the best roster out there, then there were some pretty good alternatives that made things a bit more fun. but for the most part, it was just sadness. And yeah, I'm like Mysterium 1 right now. I think I'm going to stay there. I'm not too fussed about pushing higher with this meta. This meta is just garbage, man. I cannot stand it. Like, it just, I don't know, just doesn't do it for me. And this Omega Sentinel fight is pretty annoying. She is Nullify immune, so she counters most of the best ways to deal with this meta, which is Nullify. But War Machine has passive prowess removal, which is a nice thing overall, to be honest. But yeah, this fight is going decently well. Omega Sentinel, just play around her armor up thing. She has like Mix Master, but with armor ups, where she gains 1 whenever you do an input twice in a row. And at 5, she auto blocks you, stuns you, does some damage. Pretty annoying stuff, but War Machine doesn't care. He gets the fight done. And yeah, not too shabby overall. That was like 78 seconds. Could have played it better for sure, but hey, we got it down, and that's all that matters. So that was decent. That was kind of fun. But now let's go over the next matchup here. But yeah, Battlegrounds was just a bit annoying this season, and I was gonna like get some practice in for, you know, Vancouver, but I just didn't want to practice with this meta because it was just so annoying. I didn't want to ask any of my friends to help me out with the practice because I don't want to just be annoying in that way either. So this is all I could do, right? Like, just play this miserable meta, which is whatever, man. Like, it still does help somewhat, but then again, I probably won't use champions like Civil Warrior at Vancouver unless I do for some reason, which honestly I might just use my favorites because why not. Yeah, Civil Warrior here though is one of the best attackers for this meta. He can just eliminate prowess so fast with the armor ups, and yeah, man, it's honestly impressive. He does a pretty good job with this meta, and I'm proud of him, right? Because I spent $300 on this guy, so of course I want him to do well, which thankfully he does. But yeah, that was one of the financial investments of all time. That was something, all right. But hey, man, you can't regret it. You just got to live with it, which I am doing. So here I dropped the SP2, and look at this beast, man. You'll love to see it. Not bad at all, to be honest. And Clairvoyant forgets how to do damage, so she ends up taking forever in her fights. You'll love to see it. But now we have the next round here, no big deal. And like, I didn't care about this Battlegrounds meta, like I said. I just played it for fun. I used some random champions. I used like Civil Warrior, War Machine. Like, I just used who I wanted to use. I wasn't pushing this season because I'm still exhausted from last season, which was, you know, a fever dream, right? But hey, it is what it is. Just didn't like this meta, so I'm not gonna push in this meta. Maybe the last one I should have pushed in, like the one 2 weeks ago. That one was pretty good. The victory track meta was also pretty good as well, which is ironic because last season it had great gladiator circuit metas, but a pretty bad victory track meta. But in this like cycle, it was a good victory track meta and a very, very bad gladiator circuit meta. So yeah, that's pretty funny. But like I said, sometimes matchups work decently well despite not having any prowess removal. For example, right here, this Scorpion matchup. And that's just because Scorpion is Scorpion, right? He just does so much damage that it doesn't really matter anyway. But my roster isn't really built around those type of characters. But yeah, this meta was just one to forget, right? That's how I feel anyway. Maybe some people liked it. I don't know. Like, I don't go around surveying people about this, but if you want my opinion, I think this was pretty trash, and I'm just not a fan of it. I'm trying to think of some other pretty bad gladiator circuit metas. The personal space region one was kind of fun because it was either you get the opponent down or you literally just do 0 damage. It was so hilarious, but that one was kind of bad for the most part. It was only good because Sandman was like the best champion for it, but yeah, I don't know. Like, some gladiator circuit metas are just straight up misses, but other ones are just really good or like really fun at least. I don't know though, man. But we got that fight down. We got the win. You'll love to see it. No big deal. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this Battlegrounds meta. I don't think it was fun. I don't think it was like entertaining to watch. I think it's just really boring, to be honest. And that's not what Battlegrounds is about, right? It's about having fun with the game mode. And it was hard to do that when the fights were just that miserable for the most part. Some were fun, like Civil Warrior fights were super fun, but besides that, it was just in my opinion. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this meta, and yeah, that's about it for me.